Everybody's heard about karma, and everybody has their own perception of what karma is. If you're on the spiritual journey, you would have also heard the phrase karmic contracts. And so what we're going to do in this video is get some clarity over what they are, what it's all about, what it means, and how to navigate through them. So without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, and welcome to Oak Lore Duir. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Claire Attio. For those that are returning subscribers, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're not yet a subscriber, press that button. So, karmic contracts. Now, as I said in the intro, most people have heard about karma, and many people will have their own perceptions of what karma is. My path has taught me that karma is just lessons, and those karmic cycles repeat until the lessons are learnt. And that can be really that can be a real bitter pill to swallow when some of those lessons are excruciatingly painful and difficult to navigate through. But it's contracts that we make as a soul self person, as a soul. Before we reincarnate, we have reviewed the learning that we've already done. We've reviewed the expansion, the growth of our soul, and then we make a decision about what else we want to experience here on earth, incarnated the physical body. What do we want to experience? What do we want to learn? How do we want to expand and grow our soul? Now, I can't talk about anybody else's journey. I can only talk about mine. Each of us will need to attune to ourselves, to speak with our guides, to speak with source, to do the introspection, to know what that is. My biggest karmic lessons this lifetime, it's been a twofold thing, because I've done the whole twin flame journey, which can be another another video in itself. But it comes in that twin flame journey has also been a big part of my karmic contract. As I've spent a decade on this journey, it has become very apparent that my karmic contract was the learning to give unconditional love, first to myself and then to others, in adversity. It's very easy to give love. It's very easy to hold space when people are being nice to us. It's much more difficult to continue holding that space when somebody's being a right bi. It's and my journey, I can see that now. I'll be honest, I couldn't see it at the beginning. I used to go, have I got mug written up here? Well, that mug existed because I wasn't loving myself the way I should. That was the first thing of my karmic contract, was to learn to unconditionally love myself. Imperfections, the lot, all of it, unconditionally. To embrace every aspect of who I am, even the bits that are less desirable, even those shadow areas. And what you don't realize when you first start on the journey is those shadow areas within us, those dark aspects within us, are really scary and really uncomfortable, and we really don't want to go there. But when we start facing them, when we actually start to embrace them and to give them the love, and that love transmutes them, But even before we get to the stage where that love transmutes them, when we actually start facing them, we start realizing that actually they're not as bad as we thought they were. A lot of it came from the mind. A lot of it came from the programs we were running and the things we were taught as children, from society, from our parents, from the education system. Once we started to look at that, once we embrace those aspects of ourselves, we're bringing in more light, so it then makes it easier for us to love ourselves. But we gain an understanding, because I know in the 3 main relationships that I have had in my life, each time I've come away and gone, do I have mug written here? Do I, what is it? What is it? And I had to begin with, and I didn't do it with the first relationship. The first relationship was, they did this to me and they did that to me and they're a terrible person. I was in the pain and I was in the blame. And I stayed angry for a long, long time, because anger, the emotion of anger, was much more palatable, much more controllable, because I felt completely out of control. So it was easier to stay in anger than it was to actually deal with the pain. And again, at the time, I didn't realize that that was what I was doing. But I stayed in that anger for over a decade. I stayed in that anger. I was very much in the story of what had happened to me and how unjust it was. Then I had my second relationship. And again, there was huge injustice. Again, it was like history repeating itself from my first relationship. And I'm going to be honest, at times I even asked the partner I was with at the time, why are you repeating the things that I said that that hurts me? We've had these conversations. I've opened up about my last relationship. I opened up and I told you the things that hurt me, the things that brought me great pain, and yet I find myself in this relationship and you are doing exactly the same. And guess what? When I went into my third relationship, exactly the same. And it was in that third relationship that I had to concede that the denominating factor was me. And I knew I wasn't a bad person. So it wasn't, oh, you're a bad person and you're just making all this up. But what it was that I wasn't showing myself self-love. I wasn't giving myself the respect. And so I wasn't projecting that out into the cosmos. So I was attracting people of what I was. And what I was somebody who didn't show myself love, didn't show myself consideration, didn't show myself respect. And so that's what I attracted. The universe will reflect. Our lives are a projection of what's going on the inside. And very much of these karmic contracts are to teach us this. It's not about you did X, Y, and Z in a past life, so you have to come back this life and repent. You have to have a terrible, terrible life to repent. It's got nothing to do with that. And everything to do with, are you going to wake up and see the role that you are playing? To see where you are not giving to yourself, where you are not loving yourself, where you are disrespecting yourself, where you're not stepping into the whole potential of who you can be. And I know that is very much a catchphrase and it can be a bit twee, especially in the coaching world, but it's true. Each and every one of us has infinite potential. And we're working through that, and these karmic contracts are part of that. Now, a contract is always two or more people. It's not a contract with ourselves. It's usually two or more people. And so the people that were in my life, they were also part of that contract on a whole nother level, on an etheric level, in the spiritual realms. I had said, this is what I need. This is what I want to learn. This is what I want to break through. This is the ancestral cycle that needs to be broken. Because that comes into play as well. Because I can bet whatever you are doing in your life that is causing tower moments, it is bringing you discord, that is keeping you out of balance, not only will it be part of your learning, but it will be part of your lineage's learning as well. We are products of what we learn, what we experience, everything we know to be us. We are given from the time we are born until about 6, 7. We absorb all of that through what we're told, through how we're treated, through how we're nurtured, through what we observe. So even if you had absolutely wonderful, beautiful, caring parents, and they provided the most safe and secure environment and were always positive with you, for you, if there was dysfunction within their relationship, you would have absorbed that. You would have witnessed it, and you would have absorbed it, and you would have integrated it into your being. You would have made that part of you. And that is why the whole ancestral lineage comes in as well. When we're breaking these cycles, when we're in these karmic contracts, we're not just doing it for our own soul growth, we're doing it for our ancestral growth. We're doing it to relinquish and break free of the chains that have kept us locked in that cycle, so that hopefully, yes, it's advantageous that we get to live in that freedom as well on this life. We work through it and we get to live in that freedom, but mostly for future. We're freeing the past, and so we're freeing the future. Everybody gets stuck on the now. And yes, we should be living in the now. Absolutely, we should be living in the now. We should be in the present. But what we do in the present affects both the past and the future. And we need to take that on board. And so on the spiritual realm, we would have actually said, hey, okay, I'm going to go and reincarnate, and this is what I want to learn. These are the cycles I want to break. And this is what I want to learn. And others will step forward and go, okay, I'll help you with that, because that aligns with what I need to do for my soul growth. And so we come down and we have these encounters. The challenge is remembering. The challenge is reconnecting with our soul selves. Because as we reincarnate on this earth, we also get free will. We get to choose. We get to make those decisions. And society has been, it's changing, and this is part of the big change that's coming up, but society has been geared in the past to closing us off to our connection to divine. If you're of my era, and you've seen spirits, you would have been told it was a make-believe friend. There are lots and lots of it. We were told that connecting with spirit divination was a really bad thing. It's a work of the devil. And there is care that needs to be taken when we're doing these things, because there is a polarity. There is that of the light and there is that of the darkness. And we need to take that on board. It's not just all love and light. When you're actually doing and connecting and using divination and using the elements and tapping into ancient knowledge, you do so with reverence, you do so with skill and with your guides. And I will say this, for me, it's your guides. Your guides will trust you. And I say this because, and I've talked about this before, we've got the Akashic Records, which isn't available to everybody. You do have to get yourself to a certain level, but there are things that can be done that allows you to access those Akashic Records before you're actually ready. And that can be very detrimental for a twofold thing, because one of the ways of doing that is to get a practitioner that has actually done the work and is in those higher vibrations and can access. And that's absolutely fine. The majority of practitioners would be skillful and have enough discernment to do that in a very ethical way. The problem you have is they are still having a human experience. And so within that human experience, some of the things that they will see and the way that they perceive them through what they've seen could be very different from what you would actually perceive it to be, because they're not you. So having somebody access your Akashic Records can create confusion, not through any malicious intent, but from the pure fact they're not you. What they see, they perceive with their own beliefs, values, understanding. They're not you. So they cannot perceive it and thus interpret it the way you would. So that's the first reason why I don't advocate practitioners going into Akashic Records for people. The second is that people use stimuli to get to those higher levels of vibration. But if you're not ready for that, it can be very, very detrimental. Detrimental to your health, mental health, detrimental to your energetic body. You could see things, hear things, understand things, or not understand, but comprehend things that you're not yet ready for. And so you don't know how to handle that. And again, a classic example of that is I have a brother who, for all intents and purposes, is starseed. Unfortunately, he's used his free will to undertake activities and have a lifestyle that is basically fried his brain and also makes him high. And so within that, he sees all sorts of things and has not been able to cope with it. And he's done that from a very young age. It's a lifestyle that he's actually chosen. And so the contract that he came down with, he is not fulfilling it. He's not been able to move past and through it. He's not been able to break those cycles. And basically it resulted in him being diagnosed with schizophrenia. The key point here is our contracts, if we can work through them, will leave a legacy. If we can work through those contracts, if we can step back and see the cycles playing out in our lives. So in my case, it was about self-love. And so I had very dysfunctional relationships. And I could have stayed in that blame game. I could have, been very self-righteous and very indignant about all the unfair things that had happened to me. But I wanted, and still want, to experience a functional relationship. And so I had to sit there and go, okay, what's the common denominator here? And the common denominator was me. And then it was like, okay, so what am I doing? And as I've said, I had that mug, and it was learning that I wasn't providing for myself. I was emitting an energy of what I was, and so that's what I received. And so to create the change for what I want to see, I had to change. And it comes back again, this whole coaching thing, but it is very important. If we want to see change, we need to be the change. We need to look at these cycles. As I said right in the beginning, I said about the twin flame journey. Part of mine was the twin flame journey, and that was, I'm not going to lie, that was very difficult. Now, a lot of people have a lot of mushy gushy perceptions about the twin flame. I've never had that, even though it was part of my journey. I've never had that mushy gushy perception of what a twin flame is, because for me, twin flame is fire, fire burns. And that is how I've always kind of looked at it. Now, but you're two flames from the same fire, and you've entered into a contract to help and learn and teach each other. And that teaching can be a very tough love. Usually with twin flame journeys, it is a very, very tough love. And some would even question whether it is love at all. It's, again, it comes back to listening to your intuition. It comes back to trusting the guidance from your messaging from divine, your team, your spiritual team, whoever you connect with, whoever you trust, whoever has brought you this far and has brought you peace within chaos. Those are the people you need to trust, whether they are in this physical life or whether in the spiritual realm. The ones where you feel at peace in the eye of a storm. Those are the ones to put your trust and your faith in. The twin flame journey, as some of you know, I spent 10 years on a twin flame journey, and in that 10 years, basically I was being breadcrumbed and catfished and all the other names you can actually put out there. And you probably go, why would you stay there, Claire? I stayed there because I was, one, very aware that it was a twin flame journey. Two, I was, even though it was extremely difficult, I was extremely grateful of the opportunity and the lessons. And this is why it's important to really listen to your team, because a contract is a two-way. It's a two-way negotiation. And when you've got a twin flame contract, you have to listen to that. I was able to bear what I was bearing because of the gratitude I held for the lessons I was learning. Within that twin flame, I learned to love myself because I wasn't receiving the love that I knew I deserved. I realized then that I needed to give it to myself because I deserved it. And so I started my self-love journey. I started to learn to love myself, to accept myself, to give myself the worth and the respect that I hadn't been giving to myself, and I wasn't getting from that twin flame relationship. And I wasn't getting it, not because they're a bad person, they're this, they're that. I stayed away from that. I was getting it because it was part of the twin flame contract. And I stayed there, and I stayed there longer, even when my lessons were learned, because part of that contract was to then be there so they can work through theirs. They can then work through their half of the contract and release what needs to be released from themselves, and to expand and grow and learn and become a truer version of who they are. And there were many, many times where I would say to Spirit, I've had enough. I'm off. I can't do this anymore. This is ridiculous. This is just, and Spirit would go, I would, and I did. One of those times is I went off, I took myself off to a retreat, and it was during the retreat I was able, away from the situation, I was able to get a deeper connection with divine, and I was listening for the synchronicities, and at that time divine said, no, it's not time yet. Give them another chance. Give them another chance. The thing that we need to bear in mind here, the caution we need to take here, is that we don't get stuck in another cycle of perpetually waiting. And I say that because when divine said, no, now is the time you need to go, when another situation came on that was, I'm not going to lie, absolutely heart-wrenching. When that came onto my radar, and I took the time and I attuned to Spirit, and I was like, Spirit, have I really got to stay for this? Have I really got to? And that time Spirit went, no, that's it. Last chance, Corral. You can move forward now. It's having the discernment, it's having that connection, it's listening to what your guides are saying. I was able to walk away from that relationship. Yes, was my heart broken? The heart never really breaks, but was it bruised and battered, and did I need to do healing from that? Absolutely I did. But did I walk away with the anger? Did I walk away in a sense of self-loss, broken? No, I walked away going, I did everything I could. I am grateful to that person for the lessons that they brought to my table, albeit through breadcrumbing, all through it, through gaslighting, all through it, through, you know, all these terms that we can actually use that describe the horrific situations that we actually go through. Albeit through all that, I was grateful because it meant I learnt to love me. And I walked away knowing that I had stayed for as long as I could, holding the space so that they could do the work that was part of their contract. But they used their free will not to, and continue to use their free will not to. But I waited for the signal from divine to go, okay, you can go now. And so when I did go, yes, was I brokenhearted? I hate using that phrase. It's because your heart doesn't break, but it describes the emotions we're going through. Yes, I was. But did I have any regrets? Did I have any mental blah of, have I done the right thing? Have I done the wrong thing? Was it too early? Did I leave it too late? I never, not only was I able to look at it and go, well, I did everything I possibly could for that person, but I also did and respected myself. I didn't need to come back on myself and say, well, I could have done this and I could have done that, or I should have done this and I should have done that, or I should have walked away sooner, or I should have. Those self-deprivating thoughts and inner talk that we have that bring us down even further. When we listen to the guidance of divine. And so, yeah, these karmic contracts, karma is not about they'll get theirs. Karma is about learning, growing, developing, expanding, evolving, transcending, transmuting even. We break those cycles, so we transmute those cycles. And there will be times where you have to leave people in their cycles, other people that were in that contract with you. and you hope that they will wake up to themselves. They will wake up to what's going on, what they are creating. Or maybe they won't. You can't have attachment to it. You just hold them in a space of compassion and hope and will them to do the work that's needed, because those 3 relationships were all very, very difficult. But those 3 souls are beautiful souls. And this is the thing, especially when you're empath or when you're intuitive, this is how we can get sucked into these dynamics. But is it really getting sucked into, or are we being attracted to those people because we are not in balance? We self-sacrifice too much. We give too much. We do not look for that reciprocity. We do not honor ourselves sufficiently to demand that reciprocity. So is it really being sucked in? Is it really being attracted to these people? Is it really seeing the soul of a person and not the person that they represent and have embodied and have chosen to be with their free will on this planet? A little bit of both. And only each of us can use a discernment of where we're going and how we're going to deal with that given situation. But no, it's a little bit of both. If you're being attracted to somebody, or you're involved with somebody that is gaslighting you, that is breadcrumbing you, what is it within you that you're not shining light on? What darkness within yourself? And that darkness doesn't have to be, I don't like the whole good and evil. That darkness, is it darkness, and is it heavy, and is it negative energy? Absolutely. Does it mean you're a bad person? No, it doesn't. That darkness could be that you self-sacrifice. And I know we've been brought up in a society that self-sacrificing is an honorable thing, but it's not. That just keeps us all stuck in a paradigm where we're all slaves to whatever program is being run in the matrix at that time. Caring, compassion, consideration, holding space, helping people, giving from the overflow. But even then, we don't just give. We have to have discernment. We have to have the discernment. Sometimes as empaths, we want to jump in and we want to save the day because we've got that intuition and it's running through us, and we can see we can see their trajectory even if they can't see it, and we know it's going to be a hard, rocky, bumpy road, and we try and save them. But that's a savior complex. What we can actually do is just hold space and say, you know, is that really the best course of action for you? And if they're adamant that that's the best course of action, then we need to trust that. We need to trust that is the best course of action from them. In that course of action, there is going to be some learning. And this is really difficult, especially when it comes to family members, especially when it comes to our own children. Because we want to be Mama Bear or Papa Bear, and we want to protect them, and we want to safeguard them. But you know, all those initial emotions come up to the scene. But sometimes we have to let them walk their own path. We just make sure that we're there to pick up and hold them and love them and cherish them once they have gone through that lesson. And we help them by letting them see that it was a lesson, getting them to be introspective, getting them to explore, okay, what was it that made you walk down that path? What was it within you? Not what was somebody else dangling, you know, what carrot was somebody else dangling? What was it that was in you? A great example of this are people that are very materialistic. And there is nothing wrong with the material world. But when that is your only passion, your only drive, when you're measuring your worth by what you have, that's where there's an issue. Another example are those that can't bear to be in their own company. And when they are, they have to have the television on, or they have to have the radio. There has to be some noise. And that noise is a guaranteed they're shutting out their own inner talk, because their own inner talk they're not comfortable with. There's many, many aspects of this. Contracts are lessons. They are a way to learn, to grow, to expand your soul self, to bring your soul self into greater alignment. Take the time to be introspective. Take the time to look at the cycles that it could keep repeating in your life, and make the changes within you to gain that learning and to break that cycle. If you've liked this video, please press that like button, share with your friends. If you've not yet subscribed, subscribe. If you'd like to contribute, then there is a link to make a contribution so that I can keep doing this. And I shall see you on the next one. You take care. Bye-bye.